so this is my practice talk for FITC. It's titled Eric's Epic Quest of Awesome, and basically I'm going to be talking about a system I made a few years ago and how it's changed my life and things that I learned. So really this whole thing grows out of a thing I've been doing annually, which lots of people do annually, which is make New Year's resolutions. I've been doing that basically since I'm an adult. And sometimes the New Year's resolutions are like really big in scope and I have lots of fun, and other years they're relatively small things. And this, I think 4 years ago, was the first Epic Quest of Awesome. And then there's a little, I'm going to talk about gamification, Epic Quest of Awesome, personal dashboards, and human-centered design, which is the kind of motivation piece. So gamification is actually a relatively new term. It's only about 10 years old. And what it refers to is basically taking ideas from games and trying to apply them to other aspects of life which are not games. So it's commonly used in enterprise now. They have this whole phrase called an enterprise gamification space, which just makes me laugh every time I hear it. I'm like, really? But there's also lots of people applying gamification ideas to their everyday lives or to other systems that they're running. There's lots of companies which are applying gamification ideas in their marketing, or even in like the way that their product works. They're trying to make their product more addictive in some ways. So actually Facebook is relatively famous for being quite public about the idea that they're gamifying their interface in certain ways. Another piece that it goes out of for me is the Quantified Self movement. I've been hosting Quantified Self meetups also for maybe 5 years. And Quantified Self is basically like a movement of people who do self-tracking using technology, so you can see the relevance to the gamification idea. Games are kind of another aspect of technology in our lives. And the meetups tend to be health and fitness focused, so it's like people who are trying to improve their workouts or trying to improve their health by tracking whatever problem they have and the solutions that they're trying and seeing whether they work, comparing their results against others. The meetups in general are just people sharing their stories. And that's really what I loved about Quantified Self. I, in particular, love the kind of zany stories where people are not talking about health and fitness, they're talking about, well, like in Sasha's example, tracking her clothing, or other things like this. Or there's people, I remember there was a really great talk I saw where they were creating these kind of internet-enabled like tags, and they put them on everything, including their dogs. And then they were able to, basically track like how long the dog was out of the house for every walk, and so they could get like data about like the average walk length, which is pretty awesome. Also, they put one on their fridge door, so every time the fridge door moved, they would get a notification.
And how long for, and at what time does it vary?
Yeah. So actually, they discovered that the fridge door is a really excellent indicator of when they went to bed and when they woke up, because often the fridge door is the very last thing you're doing for whatever reason. Yeah.
Just recreating the interruption for you.
Yeah.
I have a question here, which is you mentioned how these are sort of somewhat complementary and like it's in the same spirit as gamification, but isn't it almost a prerequisite? Like, can you have gamification
without quantification?
Exactly.
So I think so. Yes. You'll see later some of the aspects of gamification are really quite fuzzy, work with like motivation systems, and they're not at all quantitative. But you're definitely right that a large part of it is quantification. In particular, the so-called PBL, points, badges, and leaderboards, is that this is very much a Quantified Self approach to like gamification. So now that we're talking gamification, we've got to show games. Anyone know what this game is? This is a very famous game.
I'm bad at it.
So this is Farmville,
Farmville.
probably the most popular game like 3 or 4 years ago on iPhone and Android. Millions of people spent millions of hours tapping these little fields. And I played it myself for a while just because when anything gets that huge, I'm always curious about it. I'm like, what is it about this thing that is sucking millions of people's hours away? And it turns out it's highly addictive. Who knew? So I played for quite a while, and I learned actually quite a lot about like game mechanics and the way that these things work. And some of that knowledge has fed into the kind of gamification of my life now in a really interesting way. And unfortunately, this game kind of set up a whole chain of similar games for me. So basically now I'm pretty much always playing one of these like really addictive clicking games on my freaking phone. The one I'm playing right now is Transport Empire, which is truly glorious. But if we compare the screens of these two, actually you can see a lot of similarities. There's kind of like a playboard in the middle, and then up on the top there's like your money and your level and your experience points. And then on the right-hand side, there's like your current quests. And then at the bottom, there's a bunch of like tools you're using to administer your empire. Pretty much all of these games have a similar structure in that way. And I think that it's like an evolutionary optimum. The games have basically all been like converging on the same thing. And interestingly, they all have the same kind of like dual currency structure as well. There's one currency that's easy, and then there's one currency that's very difficult, and they want you to spend real money to buy the second currency. Clearly it's an optimization for their revenue model and not an optimization for your like motivational system.
Did you ever take a look also into those, I think a video game researcher who looked at, like he looked at Farmville and the success of it and like reduced it to cow clicker.
Cow clicker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is awesome because it took away all the bells and whistles around it, and basically you have to click a cow every so many hours.
Yeah, you get your reward. Yeah. Yeah, so all these games are very click heavy in terms of like starting and stopping the various activities on your like, you know, mythical land or whatever it is. And that is kind of part of their reward structure, is this like frequent interaction that gives you small rewards in a similar way to like slot machines or casinos. Yeah. So the other thing that kind of played into my Epic Quest of Awesome was when I was leaving California 6 years ago, I was making a decision about what my life would be like, and I had a lot of options. All I knew is that I couldn't stay in the States, my work visa had expired, but I could do a lot of things. I considered going back to school and getting a master's or a PhD. I considered finding full-time engineering work or working at startups. I considered just traveling for a while, like I could go on around the world, you know, vacation for a year or whatever. And in the end, I kind of compromised in some ways, but I chose adventure. First I decided I would travel across Canada in my car. I was going to drive home rather than flying. And that was a lot of fun. And then I also decided that rather than pick a normal life, grab another 9-to-5 job or whatever, that I would attempt to make a success of some ideas that I had for products and a startup. And so I've been kind of executing on that. But in general, like choose adventure, what I actually meant was I was just going to do really fun shit, and I would figure out the money along the way. So all of that was playing, like, you know, kind of like steeping in my mind at the time. And then I discovered a website called nerdfitness.com where Steve Kamb had basically created this really awesome, he called it Steve Kamb's Epic Quest of Awesome. And it was basically this like list of really cool things that he'd accomplished in his life for which he'd assigned himself experience points, which in turn had resulted in him leveling up. And when I stumbled across his website, he was like level 3. There was like, you know, 5 quests that he'd listed being completed. Now he's much further along. And now actually I discovered he's written his own book called Level Up Your Life, How to Unlock Adventure and Happiness by Becoming the Hero of Your Own Story. It's actually quite a good book. It is really written for beginners, but he has a lot of super valuable tips and kind of lessons learned along the way. So,
what do you mean by beginners in this context?
well, what I mean is his book seems pitched at a person who has perhaps played some video games but has never seriously considered tracking, quantification, gamification, even simple things like goal setting. He explains quite slowly. So it's, like I said, it feels to me like it was pitched to the beginner. Like I feel like even when I wrote my Epic Quest, I didn't start myself at level 1 like he started. I first started by chronicling all the things I'd already gained experience for and started at like level 12. Which is totally fair. You know, maybe there are some people who start at level 1, but honestly I don't think so. I feel like everybody is already
part of
somewhere
that
in
may
their
just
life.
be the motivation, right? By presenting or pitching a book which starts at that, you are making sure that the readers don't feel bad and feel like, oh, I'm behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Also,
If you pitch at the lowest level, then everybody feels like they're super elite like me.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's the picture of his like little graphic for Epic Quest of Awesome. Like I said, he's level 12 now, and he's completed really epic ones. Like he has one quest where he lived like James Bond in Monte Carlo, where he literally spent a week wearing like fancy suits and going around like James Bond
That's
in Monte
awesome.
Carlo, winning at the game of blackjack on blackjack tables with like $1,000 chips. That's awesome. And then, so I created a much less inspiring, I have no graphic skills. My like Epic Quest of Awesome is basically just like a wall of text in my blog. But what it consisted of is this kind of detail. Basically, like, I assigned myself experience points for things which I'd done, which I thought had like a significant impact on my life, or were a cool experience, or were in some way interesting or relevant for my like progress as an individual. And like I said, I went retroactive. I mean, I did this in like 2011, but I went retroactive all the way back. I think I stopped basically 1996, my first year of university, because I'm like, I was really crappy in high school anyway. There's no point picking that over. But you can see here, like, I'm level 8 and it's still only 2007. So like I said, I think I started at like level 12 or 13, maybe even more. But I put this one up because there's one of the really big ones in my life right there in level 7. Was I got a black belt in Kung Fu, which was a major event in my life. It took years of work and felt really great. And it's totally worth an entire level all by itself.
And so this is probably very, like, coming from someone who has very limited context in this. So when you were creating, so when you like started this, did you already go back? It's like, okay, say today it's 2015 or it's 2016 or like whatever the year is. I'm going to look back in the past few years and sort of retroactively assign experience points on the events that I think are important. And then, set myself at some level, go back as probably on as I want to go, and say I'm at level X right now. But then for the future stuff, do you do that right then, or is that done later?
So it's kind of a combination of two. There is still some retroactive stuff, because a lot of stuff in my life, because I chose adventure, a lot of stuff in my life is the kind of thing that like falls in my lap, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do that. And then I do it, and then I give myself points for it, but I didn't see it coming, right? So it's not like I had a quest to go do this thing. That's not really possible.
Okay.
There is some stuff where like I have this idea and I give myself a quest for it, and then I know in advance, like if I do this, I'm gonna give myself 50 experience points or whatever it is if I manage to accomplish it in a way that is at least somewhat close to my original conception.
So this is less about projecting and setting where you want to be, and more about looking at what you are just about to either begin or what you've already done, and trying to say, okay, how many experience points do I want to give?
Yeah.
And then is it fixed number of experience points which get you to the next level?
Yeah, so it's always 100 points in my system.
Okay.
And the least significant event I allow myself to have is the 10-point event, which is often, I mean, you can tell here, it's often like a fairly small trip, or like a little, sometimes I even give it for like, I went to a particularly interesting evening event that, I did something significant or I learned something at. So 10 points is not a particularly huge thing, which is another difference actually from this Steve Camp system. His minimum event, I think, is 20 experience points, and they're generally fairly significant. Like, he probably only has maybe 5 events a year, whereas I'm probably more like 15 or 20. So I'm being a little more generous with points in my life, which I think is great, because then I get to celebrate more often.
And you get to level up more often.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So my levels technically are less significant than his levels, which is why I'm already level 26, I think, and he's still level 12.
You're like, take that, Steve.
Yeah, I'm winning! But you have actually led into my next point, which is I discovered this system in general is a little bit backward looking. It's not as motivating as I had hoped it would be when I created it, because in general, a lot of the things in my life are not things that I see coming, and so it's, it's a backward looking system, basically. I assign experience points, and it's great to be able to read over. I mean, one of the things that I really love about this is I have written down every significant event in my life all the way back to the beginning of university. So like, anytime I'm like, thinking about my past, I can just go and like, at a glance, see things that were happening in that year. And in fact, I did create a little chart which I didn't include here, where like, number of significant events per year. I'm like, is my number of significant events increasing or decreasing? Getting better or worse? And it is increasing, which is good, but because I only started in 2011, I actually think that it's probably mostly a memory effect. Like, I probably just lost a lot of stuff in the early years, because, but what can you say? But the problem of it being backward looking is the thing that inspired this year's New Year's project, which I think is the next thing. Yeah, so this is a enterprise gamification space slogan, which almost everybody has heard. What gets measured gets managed. And so my idea this year was I really need to have like a forward-looking system for my life that feeds into the Epic Quest of Awesome. Yes, like when I complete the things in the forward-looking system, they should then enter the backward-looking system. And I can level up and celebrate about that. But it really needs to be forward-looking, it needs to be about goals, it needs to be about metrics in my life, and I need to be regularly seeing this thing and interacting with this thing in order for it to stay relevant, right? Like if it's a thing that I do in my journal, then 3 journal entries later, I'll know what's forgotten about it, it'll be gone, right? So I was basically like looking around in my life and I'm like, what is the thing in my life that I interact with regularly? Like I'm not gonna be able to avoid it. And here it is, in my bedroom I actually have this fireplace, which can't really be used. I actually store my sheets in the fireplace, it's kind of handy for that. But on the dash, there's this mirror, and on the dash, I have all the like the tree of regular life, right? So I got like my coins and my keys and my deodorant, and like any piece of paper I'm picking up, business cards, I'm dropping all this shit there, and I'm keeping like all kinds of random junk there. And so I'm standing in front of this, like applying my deodorant every day, picking up my keys and so on. So I'm here probably for a minute or two every morning, and another minute every evening. And so I decided this mirror is the perfect surface. It's a little bit odd to be writing on a mirror. In particular, it doesn't come out particularly well in photos, but in person you can actually see what's written on it quite well. So there I am, I'm like staring at it every day, and I decided I would implement this personal dashboard, is my idea, where I could have the important metrics in my life that are quantifiable. So many of them are not, but whatever is quantifiable, I decided I should quantify and put on here. And then I can also track my progress towards goals and New Year's resolutions. So, because it's difficult to read here, I have actually created a digital version of this for your viewing pleasure. Yay!
I like that goal at the end.
Yeah, so at the top, I have this like inspirational quote, which I change maybe once a month or whatever. And then on the left-hand side, there's like the kind of metrics, right? So I'm tracking how much money I have and what level I am, and what my since grade year-to-date sales are, and things like that. And then the other 2 sections are basically 9 relatively kind of like medium level important goals in my life, including some that I'll talk about right now. But I think that's the next. Yes, so my current quest.
Can you sort of go back?
Yep.
Because I want to get your perspective, perhaps you do it in the current slide, of when you look at this, what do you see and what do you look for every day, or what are some of the things that you tweak and how do you?
Yeah, so what I'm looking for every day, I mean, I'm constantly trying to optimize, and I'm great at calculating out like paces, like am I on track, right? And I have to say, in terms of pacing, I'm doing mediocre. The yoga is a little bit slow, but I think I'll be able to pick that up once I'm less busy. Questions I'm doing abysmal on. I should be like, we're a quarter of the way through the year, I should be at like 350, right? I'm at 110. At that rate, I am going to fail that one horrible bad. So
what
but-
are questions?
Well, I have a slide for it. But in general, what I'm looking at here is my numbers, like am I on target, right? How good am I doing? And then also, like I said, the whole idea here is it's refreshing in my mind, like, oh yes, I should be
This is
working
where I-
towards these quests, right?
Yeah.
So it's like my twice a day opportunity to be like, shit, yeah, that's my priority.
But there are 2 things that are still I guess complementary to that, right? Because it's great for refresher, it's reinforcing that. But one is updating it, right? Because
Yep.
that will take some calculation and things.
Yeah,
And the second
I
thing is-
update it about once a week.
Right.
Basically, I take my little whiteboard thing and I go, whoop.
Okay, and the other thing is reacting to it, right? So the fact that this number is low, what is the strategy that you want to do, and where do you do that? When do you do that?
Yeah, so that nestles into my like journaling habit. I try to write in my journal at least once a week. And sometimes what happens in my journal, I like beat myself up for these things and try to come up with new strategies. Honestly, this questions one is going to be a double for me. It actually is a continuation. Is it the next slide? It might even be the next slide. It is! Yay! So in 2015, I had this New Year's resolution to ask more and better questions, and I actually got several books out of the library on that subject, and I just decided that, like, in general, I'm terrible at asking questions. I can talk to people, but they ask questions of me, I don't ask questions of them. And I want to fix this one-sidedness, partly because I know I would learn a lot more if I asked more questions. But it's been like such an uphill battle for me. I am a lot better than I was. I mean, this time last year, believe me, I was not at 110 questions out of 1,000. I'm still struggling. But I want to be a lot better. And so like I said, I have this audacious goal this year, 1,000 questions. When I wrote that number down in January, I'm like, well, that's only 3 a day. That seems like it shouldn't be that hard. But as it turns out, I'm averaging more like 1 a day, right? So, problem.
So how do you like? This is sort of important, right? Because so many of the things that you want to make progress on, they intertwine with actual day events and life, and you need a low overhead way to be able to track your progress on these things and limit the cognitive overhead of,
Yep.
of measuring this. So, what's the strategy here?
Yeah, so the questions one in particular is kind of fuzzy, partly because I don't count trivial questions. So like, you know, the hi, how are you kind of things, right? What I want to count is like I asked a good question, right? A question that maybe I would not have asked if I didn't have this quest, because I'm trying to get better, right? And so in that way, I've actually found tracking this is not particularly hard because I have a very good memory when I actually have a conversation where I'm going out of my way to ask questions like that. I have a pretty good memory on it then. And I don't know exactly how many questions I ask, but I'll estimate whether it was a 5 or 10 or 15 question conversation. And then I'll just, at the end of the day, I'll literally just increment that number on that thing, yeah. And obviously it's super fuzzy, but I'm probably within a factor of 2 of where it actually is.
But I think that's sort of an important point, and perhaps for people like me or others like in the beginner level, which is important to stress, right? It's less important the actual number. It's more important that you're thinking about it and that you're engaged with that goal and that you have it in your mind that that is a goal.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's pretty easy to get someone in the ballpark. You don't have to get a precise number.
Well,
yeah,
exactly.
I don't need the
Exactly.
precise number.
Right.
What I need is, like I said, within a factor of 2 or so. Yeah.
Precisely, but because I think a lot of people who don't do this a whole lot, right, and perhaps even those who do, may be overly fussing about the precision of it, and so that's detracting from the benefits of this.
Yeah, I don't know whether that would be a common problem or not. I mean, I do feel like actually updating it is definitely a thing. I mean, there have been times where I miss a week and then I have 2 weeks of updating to do, and then I have to be like, yeah, no. And the other thing, I didn't show, is it on here? Oh yeah, so I didn't show in the thingy, but did you see that February the 4 written under the yoga one? That's because if I don't write down the last one that I tracked, then it's very difficult for me to figure out how many yoga sessions I had since the last time I updated. So these little like
Reminders of
subscripts are appearing on the thing that weren't in the original design, but are totally necessary to actually make the tracking work.
Right. Well, and that's what I was sort of going to get at, right? Is so the way I think the precision and thinking about that may impact people is just the paralysis. You feel incorrectly so that I have to be this precise to be able to update it. That's so much work. I'm just not going to do it. Right? Procrastinate, delegate, and end up not doing it. Right? Whereas the important point is to do it every so often as well as you possibly can. And it doesn't really matter even if it isn't. The fact that you're doing it is more important.
Yeah, and also I feel like updating my system is not particularly difficult. I mean, really, all I do is I take that eraser, which is right there, and then I take the marker, which is right there, and I change the number. Like, it doesn't take more than a minute for me to figure it out. But it has to be done. And that's another reason, like I said, that I wanted it to be in a place where I'm there already. Like, I'm already looking at it, I'm already standing in front of it. Like, yeah. And if you don't have a place like that in your life, this might be more difficult. But you could probably invent such a place, like maybe it's on the backside of your bedroom door, or I don't know. There's lots of places like that.
You can always hang whiteboards or, like even if you don't have a file.
Yeah, whiteboard, maybe you can do it work, who knows. So another one of my quests this year is 100 sessions of yoga. Last year I think I made between 60 and 70, and that's because I generally go twice a week, but I miss some. Sometimes I travel, sometimes I'm sick. There's like family events and things where I miss sessions. So this year I want to do 100, and I know that in order to achieve that goal, I'm going to have to go 3 times a week for quite a large number of weeks. And I am not succeeding in this either. I have yet to go 3 times in a week for any single week, which is why I'm definitely lagging.
But I think again an important point, and I'm probably stating a whole lot of obvious, but this is very exciting for me, right? Is you did a very important thing here. You set up a goal for the year, but then you made a first approximation to what it looks like in your day-to-day, right? Because that's how you make it achievable, so that just by looking at the goal, you know where you are and where you should be. Right? You have a basic run rate and you compare that in your head where
Exactly, there's all kinds of like traffic management all the time anyway, so easy to figure out that I can't achieve this goal using what I did last year. And the final one which I thought I would show is my wearables goal. I have a goal to make 5 different wearables products or outfits or some thingamabobbers of some sort this year. And I recently finished 2 of 5, so it's the male and female outfit that I made for the Soft Power Show in Calgary. One was right here. They're totally spectacular. Laser cut sleeves, lights in the arms, lights in the spikes, fiber optics on the female, motors which drive shoulders out on the male, motors which lift the collar on the female, fiber optics in the sashes. It was a lot of technical work and a lot of fashion work. Wendy and I collaborated, it was spectacular, so much fun. I am still trying to decide how to properly reward myself for achieving this partial goal.
Experience.
Well, because the other thing I got from the book that actually I will talk about later is boss battles. I'd never considered boss battles, but it's such a great idea, and I'm like, yeah, that was kind of a boss battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a slide of Sasha's. I basically shared my Epic Quest of Awesome with Sasha 3 or 4 years ago, and she in turn made her own Epic Quest of Awesome,
This is
including including this. I would call this the goal tree, or maybe not even goals, but like endpoints. So her like ultimate top level endpoint is living an awesome life, and then there's all of these sub goals like cooking yummy food, which feed into leading the awesome life. And I haven't made a similar version of this kind of like brain mapping thing for myself, but I think it is really cool, and I definitely have been doing a lot of thinking about like my high level values and what my structure like this would look like. And I think it's a cool part. Like another thing that happens in a lot of games is like skill trees, right? And I totally want to copy skill trees into my life in some way. I mean, obviously it doesn't exactly come across because like I can't get better broadswords or whatever. Although I'm already pretty good broadswords, but
But I think this is so odd, like the various tools and stuff, and I think I'm not sure how much in FIBC this may be useful, but perhaps even just mentioning some of the things can be done, and also I think stressing, which you already did, the point that none of this requires a whole lot of complicated stuff. You can do it with as basic as thing of just a marker and a board and
it doesn't have to actually be high tech.
more techie stuff that you may want to experiment with, and it's on the board almost in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, my system is extremely analog and very low tech. It's basically all in here.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because it's really all about hacking my motivation. So I'm going to actually move this boss battle slide for Sasha's thing because it did fit in kind of naturally with the thing. So yeah, but I am thinking about the idea of boss battles, and like if you have some goal in your life that's going to culminate in a big event, that big event is your boss battle, and you should like have a loot bag at the end of it or something. I don't know, but
I know. Like, well, just thinking about this, and it's like I'm just going through a boss battle right now, and I know I'm coming one in a few months as well. So it's like this is
so
awesome.
boss battles, like basically they're like the big deadlines.
Yeah.
Right. It's totally It's making a lot of sense to me. So yeah, in general, this is all feeding into a section. Now I have a kind of an academic section of this talk, where I'm going to blow you away with the complexity of my slides on motivation hacking. So this is Yu Kai Cho, and he wrote this really awesome book called Actionable Gamification. He is kind of like a fully fledged member of the enterprise gamification space. You can actually see up here, you see Gamification World Congress 2015. Doesn't that sound impressive and very enterprisey? Yeah. And this slide, like many of my slides, is a random picture from the internet that I happen to like. I'm pretty sure it comes from her blog. She looks really happy to have met him. I'm telling you who she is. But anyway, his blog is basically about, this is my awesome slide, isn't it great?
That is awesome.
Yeah, this is an awesome slide.
And
His book is basically about this system he invented called Octalysis, which is named after the octagon. It has kind of divides motivation into 8 pieces, and then inside each of those 8 pieces, he has like maybe a dozen or so things that games do that motivate people using that system. So when most people, when they think of games, actually are up in the top corner with accomplishment, where games are using things like points badges on leaderboards in order to reward you for accomplishing things in the game, right? So you get experience points, you get badges, you're high ranking on the leaderboard, whatever. But as this slide shows, there's this like enormous world of things that games are doing. In particular, actually, there's quite a lot of games down here in the black hat extrinsic corner doing scarcity, so like fixed interval stuff. So like the Farmville, you know, when you click on the farm and then it makes you wait 2 hours in order to get the output of the farm. This is a fixed interval scarcity kind of like motivational system because you're now excited to wait for your 2 hours in order to get your reward, right? And the reward itself may be the ownership thing. So like when you're done, you're going to have this object, and it will be a permanent part of your inventory system or whatever. Transport Empire is actually really great for that.